Wait, hold on. Wait, what is happening? Let me just. Oh, okay, we're live. Perfect. Hi, Andrew. Welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi Grace, thank you for having me. So excited.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm just a huge fan. I feel like I already told you like 75 times. And at the Gold House event, I was like, wait, are you the founder of Boba Guys? Because I saw you're like holding 45 Boba. And then we're
Oh,
talking about diabetes. But anyway,
that was my contribution to the event. I mean, most of that crowd is like really cool technology founders and all this stuff. And I don't have much to offer other than providing boba. That's really what
no,
I
I feel like, you know what? Nowadays, people just like turn Boba into code. So I feel like Boba is very important
there is.
for
I think
productivity.
our friends, this other Andrew, I think started a boba coin apparently. Um, he knows my co-founder more, but so there's even a crypto coin boba. So
I
I'm
love
boba.
that. Boba Dow. I will be totally in Boba Dow. I will bet my money on Boba, but
Yeah, that's hilarious. That would be actually that's come up, especially during the big Web3 push a couple of years ago.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I feel like this is okay. So I have like so many questions, but maybe we could start with like I think I listened to like a bunch of your other podcasts that like obviously you went to Berkeley and then you work at Timbuktu with your co-founder and you also talked to your uncle. And why don't we start with like what were the main like I guess inspirations for Boba Guys if people like first time heard about this? Obviously,
yeah,
if you live in the Bay Area, like everybody know Boba Guys is like the
yeah.
famous. Yeah,
They were consider us too big of a chain in the Bay.
for sure.
I would say the way we would start talk about Boba Guys is the way so many tech founders, and honestly, because
Mhm,
we started in Silicon Valley or San Francisco, right, in the Mission
mhm,
District, which
mhm,
has a lot of great culture for food, but also a lot of tech culture. And so we were kind of at this intersection between those two worlds. I think, for me personally, it was a huge play on East meets West culture.
mhm,
You might relate to this actually, is, I'm in the consumer founder world, right? So
mhm,
consumer founders, a lot of times, the product they do is almost always a reflection of their actual personal
mhm,
ideologies and taste. It's like so many restaurateurs started their restaurant because, well, I like pizza, I like
mhm,
smoothies or whatever, or uh, uh, my kid wanted this specific type of toy. They didn't have
mhm,
it available, and I made this toy that is now a big phenomenon. I think that I see that quite a bit. I think we were the same, where we were like, I wanted a little bit more Asian representation. I think it's still on the angel list, by the way. Somebody
mhm.
told me this. I think on Boba Guys' angel list, it says like um, Asian blue bottle. I think that's what it says.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like it is a Asian blue bottle, and I feel like it's such a good like. I like that you're like kind of like bridging the culture between like the Western and Eastern to like create this like phenomenon. I sounds like ChatGPT, but keep going. Sorry.
No, no, but that's thank you for yeah. I think that was it. So I wanted to do boba, and then on a business side, I was like, how come no one's done this before?
Mhm,
And like I was getting older, so my co-founder and I were in our late 20s, right?
mhm,
So I'm in my 40s now. This is 14 years ago. So
mhm,
actually, we started 15. We had the idea 15 years ago. We started 2011, which was a year after that. But we were like, how come there isn't like, premium or more kind of adult boba? We
mhm,
weren't trying to say, I love
mhm,
Tapioca Express.
mhm,
Like, I love their taro. I say this on interviews and people don't believe me. If you ever watch me walk around, ask people around me, I love fake taro. I really
mhm,
do. We serve real, natural, all natural ube
mhm,
lattes, but there's nothing like fake taro milk tea with mango stars. That's kind of like
mhm,
my or egg pudding.
mhm,
That's kind of been my thing since college. If again, anybody who's known me knows that that was my addiction, plus a regular black milk tea. But
mhm,
I was like, okay, well, my metabolism isn't as good.
mhm.
um, in my coffee world, I'm drinking Blue Bottle. I'm drinking Phil's coffee. I'm drinking things that are kind of a little bit more
Elevated.
sophisticated. Yeah.
Mhm,
So I was like, how is that not done for boba? And at worst, we were like, we can get free boba. So I was like, I wanted at least free boba. So my co-founder and I were like, let's do this as a side hustle. Thank God for my sister. My sister was at a company called Pete's as a great barista.
Mhm.
And so she and this guy, Gordon and Johan, were the first kind of 5 of us that kind of did this pop-up, which
Mhm.
right away, we were very lucky. There's no kind of sexy story. Like it was a thing right out of the gates. So there wasn't in the beginning, there's a struggle now because
Mhm.
of the climate and the economy. But back then, from pop-ups to our first 10 stores, there was almost no kind of struggle. Culturally, maybe there was a lot of hate, but
Mhm.
first 5 years, I'll share. Every entrepreneur has their skeptics and hate stories, and I
Mhm.
had quite a bit of that because we were so public. Um,
Mhm.
but I'll save that for probably some other question. But that's how it started. Yeah. So we wanted to do like something that was like premium ingredients. So ice cream shops were using Strauss organic milk. We still use Strauss to this day. Not many people use, they use high fructose corn syrup. We made our own. We were the first really to kind of make our own syrups.
Mhm.
All cane sugar, turbinado, brown sugar, which you can easily
Mhm.
taste if you go to Boba Guys. And then we were kind of very transparent. All our stores right away were like wide open, which at the
Mhm.
time, boba shops were not like that.
Mhm.
And we kind of stole that straight from coffee. Coffee wants you
Mhm.
to see where the beans are from, how you make all
Mhm.
these simple syrups or whatever. But in boba, you know, I've said this for more than a decade. I think we were probably definitely first chain to kind of
Mhm.
do that widespread. Maybe there was a boutique shop, but nobody popularized it. And I think
Mhm.
um, as an entrepreneur, you always have to, you either make or buy. Like, do you make something or do you kind of like acquire it? And we're
Mhm.
like, definitely wasn't like deals in existing businesses. So why was there so much white space or like a blue ocean on this? And I was like, well, it's either people tried and failed,
Mhm.
or they haven't solved this really complex puzzle. And I was betting on the latter, where I was a trained marketing guy. This is a LinkedIn audience, so I was, you can see my LinkedIn as I'm talking. Some people might be commenting as we speak
Mhm.
and I can't see it,
Yeah,
but
people say Yusuf says hello, hello.
hello, hey,
Okay.
but I, I was a trained marketer. I was at Clorox. I was a brand manager,
Mhm.
I was
I
a brand
saw
manager.
that. Yo, I saw that. I was like, wow, you have had such a diverse set of experience, like Clorox, and then you're at Timbuktu.
Yeah, that's where we met.
And yeah.
Co-founder.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's very interesting. And Walmart, Target, you literally have all the consumer brands.
That's probably why I always tell people like, I'm not that deep. You jump into my pool, it's very shallow. You'll hit the bottom right away. But I am pretty broad in my consumer experience. Like I do
Mhm.
know consumer retail, Walmart, Target, and then
Mhm.
being a product of Clorox, which I'm very fond of. Clorox, Procter and Gamble basically are this kind of same company. They just got
Mhm.
split. But
Mhm.
when you learn about Clorox, Procter and Gamble, Unilever, Nestle, these giant companies, they're selling commodities.
Mhm.
And so,
Yo, that's my question for you.
okay,
Like,
what
I
question?
feel like okay, so my question was like, I think there's like 3 things on top of my mind. It's like Boba Guys is like a like very high-end thing. So like
Uh-huh.
when you think about boba, people think about like it's when you mention it to other podcasts, it's like you go to like a you go to like a realtor, they're like, no, 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 don't enter our mall. But like I feel like they have to like take on you as like a new project because of like, you have to kind of rebrand boba in general. But
Mm.
I feel like it's really hard to like sell a commodity, right? So it's like, I feel like boba is like I feel like there's only maybe one guy who's like on this level. It's like the liquidized people. It's like they're literally selling water. So
Yeah.
like I feel like this is like on that level, right? So like it's like people think about boba, people think about it's like something cheap. It's like after school drink, yada yada yada. But like this is like a more elevated experience to like rebrand it as like a blue bottle of boba, right? So like how do you kind of like think
Mhm.
about the rebrand?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I'll be honest. Like I would say maybe before I even did it, we started Boba Guys as a corporate marketing guy. I actually
Mhm.
thought rebranding, you have to rebrand the industry
Mhm.
and or rebrand or reinvent a company. So
Mhm.
those are two different levels of kind of operating.
Mhm.
So we didn't know this because at the time I'm not thinking about it academically or intellectually. I'm just like, it would be cool to do this.
Mhm.
Now I've done quite a few like, panels and interviews
Mhm.
where I actually get asked this question and I need a better answer. That's what I'm trying
Mhm.
to say. So I would say maybe the best way I'd explain it for anybody who was trying to break in a new category and evolve a category. So I see like, um, Chipotle, but for Asians, or
Mhm.
um, uh, I want to do what mineral Vita Water did, but for seltzer. Like I see a lot of that kind of like
Mhm.
derivative, like this, but that. And so I
Mhm.
think a lot of times is you take the tactics and kind of the blueprint, but you kind of tell a different story and you make a different kind of vision. So
Mhm.
what I mean by that is like I always start with, I think it's Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Mhm.
So he's saying begin with the end in mind. So I always tell my team, start with what's your goal. Every conversation
Mhm.
I start with professionally is what's your goal? What do you
Mhm.
want out of this? And so for me, it was okay. My goal was to be, I could do boba shops, but keep it in Asian
Mhm.
communities.
Mhm.
That could have been my goal, but that was not my goal
Mhm.
clearly from the
Mhm.
beginning.
Mhm.
My co-founder and I were like, okay, I think our goal is to be crossover mainstream.
Mhm.
I think the problem is that people, what was the problem statement, right? It was people
Mhm.
feel othered. They don't feel like they belong. People only feel Asian. They don't feel like only Asians can be involved in here. Um, they don't know what goes into the ingredients. Or if they do, they're like me, where like I'm getting older. Like I can't have like cheap ingredients. Like I just need a little bit nicer. I'm not
Mhm.
shading Tapioca Express or all these other guys, but like, hey,
Mhm.
there's a difference between like a basic coffee and a blue bottle. There clearly is. It's like driving a Toyota and a Lexus. If you can say that, what's wrong with saying I just want more of like the Lexus of boba? Um, but I got a lot of heat. People are like, you're like
Mhm.
shading these small businesses or these,
Mhm.
I'm like $1 billion chains. I'm like, how are
Mhm.
you defending like $1 billion chain? I'm not even like, I still, again, I admit I drink the chains to this day.
Mhm.
At the time I had to figure out, okay, well, what's the story? So the story was make people feel comfortable that even if you're Asian, your coworker who's not Asian could come and feel okay.
Mhm.
Make it more about global tastes. So if you're at the time, really, now I know him as a friend, but I really looked up to David Chang and Eddie Huang.
Mhm.
And they were kind of pioneers, I think, in food. And
Mhm.
so, and I really like this other guy, Anthony Bourdain, who Eddie knew.
Mhm.
And Eddie, people don't know this, some topics were like, he had Bauhaus in New York. And he was
Mhm.
one of the first people when we opened New York to co-sign us. And I think that I always tell people attributed to our second kind of like
Mhm.
second rise. And it was saying, I remember him saying, you make boba done in a way and our culture done that was cool,
Mhm.
that had a take on things. So if you held the Boba
Mhm.
Guys and you brought it back to the office,
Mhm.
it wouldn't feel weird because I remember working and I would drink boba. I worked at Clorox, which was Oakland Chinatown or Oakland downtown, but Chinatown is like
Mhm.
3 blocks over. And instead of going to get coffee, sometimes I'd go get boba, but I'd bring it back to my meetings, and I would always get a comment. You're like, "Oh, what's that? Oh, you're drinking boba,"
Mhm.
and I was like, "How do I make it so that that comment doesn't come up? That it's
Mhm.
normal?
Mhm.
How do you normalize something?" And that was all we were trying to do. And if you're a marketing guy or girl, your marketing chops will teach you how to normalize something. It's like,
Mhm.
did you know your hair is not supposed to look like that? Well, here's a solution. Did you know you can make
Mhm.
your clothes even cleaner? Here's Clorox bleach. Like to me, there is a storytelling brand kind of positioning way to do that. And that's all we did. I don't think it's rocket science, but I'll tell you the hardest part, and you actually hit, which was such a great observation. I think the hardest part of Boba Guys was actually not the storytelling on press, because press was
Mhm.
like this. It was like,
Mhm.
you're like, oh, I get it. You know what the hardest part was? It was the landlords.
Mhm.
The landlords who were essentially like B2B, they were the gatekeepers. They, even if I told a great story, they don't need to let me in because they're going to be like, I can put a coffee shop here. I can put a
Mhm.
smoothie shop here. And you want to come and you think you're going to,
Mhm.
that was the first 5 years. I always say like, people credit us for like kind of being great marketing people.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I appreciate the compliment, but I actually pride myself on like, man, I had to sit in these meetings and really convince these like sometimes very old non-Asian landlords that we belong.
Mhm.
That was a way, and I had to meet them 2 or 3 times in coffee. And
Mhm.
by the third time, they're like, "Oh, this guy is okay. Okay, he's hungry." Like whatever it was,
Mhm.
they gave us a chance. Our first 5, 6 stores, you know, was all that. My Hayes Valley
Mhm.
store, which you went to, like that landlord, DDG at the time, I remember pitching them, and they were going to give it to actually Phil's Coffee.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, how am I? I'm not Phil's Coffee, but we won that space. They're like, oh, I'll give you a
Mhm.
shot. And we were there for 9 years.
Mhm.
And Potrero, that was
Mhm.
shouts to Equity Residential.
Mhm.
And the partner there, Wyona, I forgot her name. I met her, and she came out to see me. My real estate broker kind of put us in touch. We walked around the block, and they wanted us to be an anchor. It was the first time we were in an anchor, and they were like, we were thinking about putting a coffee shop here, but they tell me we had 3 stores at the time, so that
Mhm.
was my team tells me that you're hungry and you're different, and I was like.
Mhm.
And this person's like a partner at this massive real estate group. And Wanda, that's her name, Wanda.
Mhm.
And Wanda was like, so I think I'm gonna give you a shot. And I said, I did the whole like in those movies, I
Mhm.
won't let you down, ma'am, shake a hand, I'm not gonna let you down. You bet on me. Like I had that same mentality. I was like, what? And I never forget her to this day. So yeah. Wanda was such a big ally for us. So it took a lot of that.
Mhm. I wonder, okay, so I guess like the other question I had was like, I think how do you scale that from like 1 to 24 locations? And
Mhm.
because I think like it's easier to start like something that's like, I mean, I'm sure you guys are like now standardized, but I guess like how do you kind of turn, I guess my question, there's like two part of it. One is like from 1 store to like 2 store, and then the number 2 is like from 2 to 24 store, just cuz or like branch out to like different location and stuff. Just cuz I think like when you're starting 1 store, like you're still like trying to like figure out the menu, or maybe if you could tell us a little bit about like how do you figure out the menu, because obviously like I feel like you guys kind of pioneered the strawberry matcha thing,
Yeah.
which is my favorite. And I'm like a very basic person. That's like that's the only thing I order from you guys. Not only thing, but like obviously I order
That's
like
our most famous
the
drink. Yeah, for
stuff.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So why don't we talk about like how do you figure out like do you do the menu first? Do you do like when the pop-up location, like what do you do? Do you like make your own boba? Do you buy it from somewhere else? Like I know that you guys make the tapioca like
Now
pearl
we
right
do.
now
Yeah.
yourself, right? But at the beginning, was it like everything is just like handmade all the way? And then like tell us more about like how does the store kind of like born from a like a little pop-up?
Yeah. Such a good question, especially I'm realizing this now
Mhm.
because I said it earlier when I was like, oh, you know what, this is a different crowd. I'm usually talking to
Mhm.
college students, and I'm usually talking
Mhm.
to like maybe in ERG for like Asian ERG, but this is like
Yeah,
broad in. So I actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole.
go
um
for it.
None of this was rehearsed for people watching. Like
Yeah.
I told Grace, I was like, I trust you because good interviewers make people and hosts make people feel safe. I would say this. I'm stealing from kind of the Peter Thiel like 0 to 1 stuff. I think there's obviously creating something out of nothing. So whether you're a creator,
Mhm.
like an influencer, or that's why we work with a lot of artists, musicians,
Mhm.
to entrepreneurs. You're creating something that didn't exist and you're making it into an existence. So in order to do that, your first set, that part is figuring yourself out, and it's all
Mhm.
about trying, trial and error, iterating, and giving the people what they want. So, like if we did a flavor in the beginning that didn't hit, or
Mhm.
people thought it took too long to make our drinks, which some people said that was true,
Mhm.
then we had to quickly change. In our first 3 stores, 0 to 1 and 1 to 3 stores, that was pretty much what was going on.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to build out a store. So my first store never had good ventilation and air conditioning, which is
Mhm.
why we ultimately had to give it up because now with climate change, couldn't, change in that store would be baking at 100 degrees weather. And so I didn't know how to build out stores. I didn't know much about supply chain at the time. Even though I was in corporate, I always had people do it for me. So there's a different set of skills when you're an entrepreneur than when you're kind of corporate and you're like have 15 different layers. So I had to be, maybe the skill set in the early days, I break it down to like skills that you need. Really fast problem solving skills, very action oriented. That's why I tell people, if you're not action oriented, do not be an entrepreneur. If you analyze, no offense to my consultant friends, I know you guys are watching, you're not, no. I really need a consultant friend who's a crazy good consultant and a good entrepreneur. I love my friends. I think they're overpriced. I wouldn't hire them either, but I would ask them for input. But I would never think they should be a great entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs are guessing. They're like, okay, will this work? Does the customer want this? That's just not the mindset when you're trying to like tweak in or consolidate two companies. It's just not the same mindset. So everybody has their own place. So that's kind of the role of an entrepreneur in the early days. But then when you go from the evolution of founder to CEO, that's where I became, and I had to learn on the fly how to be a CEO with 10 stores. Then you get, I don't know if I'll say this, but I'll be very careful because my lawyers hate me talking about it, is that you have ambulance chaser lawyers coming after you, especially in California, where they just see money. Oh, you're a certain size, here it is, and it ruins the cause, because it's the people don't get the money, it's the lawyers. And many times every business person watching will tell you 90% of the time is bogus. And America has a super big problem there, which is it's a whole separate podcast about how America's broken as a society. And so when you're in that, you're solving for HR systems, finance systems, which as an entrepreneur, you're kind of doing things in Excel or Google Sheets. But as a founder, as a CEO, it's protect the house. We have a great handbook. Well, you might be exposed here because you might have 500 great employees, but two of them, somebody gets in their ear. I will tell you, about 99.999% of in the food business, something out of compliance. There's always that the public health not up to code, because I just saw it at a restaurant. I'm not going to say who it is, but I saw somebody put a food thing on the floor. You don't do that. But when you're a mom and pop, I don't know, you don't think about the rules that same way. But, like, people are human. So I think, but then one screenshot, and when you're a chain, somebody's going to kind of bring that up. And, how do you do that at 500 people or more? That's the hard part in the second phase, or the second or third phase. So to me, I just phase it as like, startup problems, your skill set is problem solving, action. Your kind of growth phase is more about building systems, protecting the house, scaling processes. So if the problem is going to be repeated, well, then you need a process for it. If it's a one-off, like it's not really going to happen again, you don't need to make a document. But if my Wi-Fi goes down at any of our 20 stores, I need to probably make a document that talks about Wi-Fi troubleshooting. Which, when you're a startup, 2 stores, I don't need to make a document. Like, they're going to call me, Andrew, Wi-Fi's down. Okay, I'll come in. Or I'm at a different store. I'll come into that store. That's how it was in the early days, but very different later.
I wonder, so like I guess like, I like what you said about like, you need, if a problem is like repetitively showing up, you have to like make up processes of it. And then like if there's like 500 people, if one person puts the, I guess like the stuff on the floor or something, you're cooked. So I guess like, how do you think about like writing these processes? And then I guess like, do you have like the central control of like the 24 location, or versus like, have you ever thought of like franchising and stuff? Hi,
Yeah,
Rudra. Okay, so like audience are saying, "Hey, Andrew." So yeah.
Another good question. I would say, I'll just the last part first. Franchising is really franchising, you lose control. We don't franchise. So for us, one of the kind of, in competitive strategy, you got to own your positioning and create defensible like moats. So it's not rocket science that one of Boba Guys' defensible moat is we don't franchise. Almost everybody else, 99% of boba shops or boba chains and even cafes now franchise. And it's because you get quicker capital and you can diversify your risk, let's just say. So if somebody kind of goes after your Las Vegas locations, well, your home office is not kind of getting exposed. When you're kind of wholly owned the way we are, it's a lot harder, I found. But on the flip side, when we do collaborations, when we do complex things, it's way easier to implement. Because let's just say I do a collaboration, we're known for these, we kind of, I didn't say invented, but we essentially popularized collaborations in food and beverage. Before us, almost nobody did music collabs, fashion collabs, beauty collabs. Like we started.
If you ever want to do a podcast collab, so
yeah, I mean, if we do like a series of podcasts that are small business related, I could see that. So I think when you're wholly owned, you have the ability to, I can even do this. Whereas like if I had a bunch of franchisees out there, I'm like, hey, we're going to work with A24. We're going to work with Barbie. We're going to work with like, Supergroup, Laneige. Let's just say the further out you are and the more distant you are from home office, you're not going to want to, you're like, it doesn't pay the bills. So you're not going to execute. And then your brands that you're working with are like, I went to that store, my local store in Atlanta, and this boba shop, which is part of a large chain, didn't have any of the posters up, but we paid to promote this movie. So that's kind of why I think franchising, I think for certain models, Blue Bottle, most of the high-end kind of places do not franchise for that reason. Now, that being said, in California, I'll be honest, here's a little like pro tip and, like provocative because I'm known for kind of speaking my mind. You have all these multinationals come in from Asia now. Luckin Coffee's coming in. They're going to take on Starbucks. They're wholly owned mostly. But you have all these boba shops coming in. And they're working with local money a lot of times, regional money. So yeah, you got to pay your 8%, 6% royalties. You got to pay your $50,000 franchise fee. But after that first generation, they don't care. That the first managers phase out, the excitement's gone. And then it's that usually we see the franchise starts running into the ground. That's going to be okay. But I don't think that's good for the community. I really don't. I've seen this happen so many times. And I personally think like, especially nowadays in California, don't you want to put money where the owners? But like to me, California has a little bit of hypocrisy going where like you don't like the Blue Bottles, you don't like the Starbucks, fine. But you'll go to support these big multinationals from overseas because they're exotic. And I would say the money is even more tainted, to be honest, right? So I think the American consumer has this kind of like cognitive dissonance, like not say hypocrisy, but essentially it's not it's very emotional. It's very like, but that's how marketing works. It's emotional. So, you have to figure out ways, which goes into a later question about marketing is like, we have to double down on being real, being authentic, being true to our American roots. I'm Taiwanese American and Chinese American. So I will always kind of allude to my parents' heritage. But I go overseas and I'm not, like they make fun of my American haircut, or when I go to China, every time I've been going for the last 15 years, every time I've gone, it gets worse and worse in terms of them making fun of Americans. Oh, your accent sucks. What's wrong with your country? Why don't you do this? And they're like, literally like, I'm like, yeah, but we want to support, but they're okay. Like kind of like, taking our communities, I love, Chinese businesses, but I'm also like, like, are we not going to support homegrown businesses first? How about that? That's kind of my take on things. And I think you should support local restaurants, or at least like domestic, because the money at least stays in the country instead of getting farmed back out overseas.
I have a question on this. So one thing is like you mentioned about like um because of you have like the central control over like the 24 stores, right? And how do you think about the management and then also the margin? Just because is that going to be higher than franchise or like lower than franchise? And since you guys like make a lot of stuff on your own, are those like gonna like cut down the I guess like unit economics in general?
Yeah, I'm a business nerd, so I don't mind answering this question. I would say it all depends. You have certain franchises that are extremely profitable, and that's why they exist. I'm a big fan of Subway. I could tell
Mhm.
you, back it was like tuna melt Fridays, Italian BMT Wednesdays. Honey, the chicken breast on Tuesdays. Like, I think, or Thursdays. I mean, so places like Subway, I think at the time, especially until maybe a couple of years ago, they were really known to kind of do well with franchising.
Mhm.
I heard Dave's Hot Chickens is really popular, and I actually know the founders.
Oh, I love Dave Hot Chicken.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. I actually just had them like a week ago, Nashville Hot Chicken
Mhm.
style stuff. But them, they're I think supposedly one of the biggest franchises nowadays. And they are very profitable too. You can read about them on the news. And I think
Mhm.
there are ways to make a lot of money, and there are wholly owned businesses similarly that make a lot of money. On the flip side, I think it's pros and cons. If you're wholly owned, you generally have your target for more legal action.
Mhm.
Because you have a centralized source of the lawyers see it. Let's just say I don't know. Yeah, my lawyer's gonna get mad,
Mhm.
but I was like, why are we targeted all the time? And it was like, because they see dollars. It's as simple as that. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what? And if you're franchised, they can only go after local franchisees, and they don't have the dollars. I was like, wow, how screwed up is America? When I heard that, by the way, I heard that like 5 years ago when I first started seeing random things. I was like, wow, America's screwed up. Now seeing a lot more of this and friends calling me about this, I'm like, oh, America's broken, right? Like right away, I already knew America's broken. It's even more broken, especially after the last 48 hours. But I think um, that's the pros and cons. So yeah, I might be able to vertically integrate. So I get a little bit more margin. I have more control there, so I can at least not be at the whim of price increases the same way. But my ingredient costs, even though I have our own factory, that's a case study,
Mhm.
right? I have our own factory, so maybe I'm not hit with the tariffs the same way. So a case of boba, it comes in like 36 pounds, 6 bags, 6 pounds. It's kind of the standard. A boba case is probably going to import now. It used to be $50, $60. Now it'll probably run $70, $80 because of the tariffs. Well, for us, our prices are not going to change too much because even though we import the starch,
Mhm.
sugar generally comes from Mexico, which is kind of roughly the same, but the starch comes from Thailand, which is overseas. Okay, so we might get a little bit of a bump there, but the labor and stuff is all US.
Mhm.
So that doesn't change. So if anything, I might have actually now a cost advantage because I'm domestic. When we started 8 years ago, that wasn't the case. So I think, or at least price parity.
Mhm.
I don't know if we have an advantage. I think we might have price parity. But now I get to say, hey, same price, but we make it in the US, we use less preservatives, and it's supporting a US, manufacturing. So to me, I think there's a lot of like angles, but lawyers will come after us more. So I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know, is how do you want to make your money? I actually think it's a wash. I don't think for that there's no statistical. I'd be
Mhm.
curious if there's a study, but I don't know if there's like all franchisees make more money, franchise companies make more money, or all wholly owned. Because for every Starbucks, there's a Subway. So I don't know.
Mhm. For sure. I have a okay, so like I want to quickly say hi to the audience. Hi
Hi
Jed,
everyone.
hi Alex. And I just like
We can
cuz
see.
whoever comments it's on the comment section. So like I mean whoever
Oh, I see him
comments
now.
I wanted to say hi to them.
Oops, I didn't
So
see you guys.
Rudra is asking what type of marketing do you guys use to start popularize Boba Guys?
Yeah, great question. I would say the best marketing is timing. So we high tides raise all boats. We got
Mhm.
hot during the social media start beginning. So 2011, if you remember, Instagram had just come out. I think we were the first big cafe, or not big cafe, but we were the first kind of one of the few concepts on Instagram really early. And so we did a lot of Instagram, a lot of Facebook. So that's why we're really tied to the Meta ecosystem. We actually were on their small business council. Sheryl Sandberg at the time wanted to put together a small business council, and I was a local kind of personality. And they were like, your voice could be great for this council. And so I actually, Facebook pages, and that was the beginning, of that. And I was on that council that helped put that together, the way Messenger worked. And I remember all of that, all to say that like we were being part of a growth of social media era. So I think that was lucky. So I'm not trying to be modest here. I think we got really lucky with timing with social media, organic. I would say the other part was I did press. My co-founder and I were very press friendly. So maybe that's where we had an advantage compared to other boba shops because they were definitely not doing press. So we were able to differentiate right away. And I think we did a lot of like storytelling and bringing people along. We were one of the first companies to kind of say online, but also in press, hey, the formula this week might be different next week. Actually, I remember saying this, and I was writing on a magazine. It still exists called Good Magazine. So I had a column that was weekly, and I was it's still on the internet, documenting this process, let's just say. And I had people read that and then come in and be like, oh yeah, we were testing the black teas last week. Do you have new teas? And at the time we were like, oh, we think matcha is going to be big next. So we were testing matcha, and by the time we opened our first physical store, this year 2, we had matcha in our menu. And that was all done wide open. So that way we didn't know. I'm saying this now, again, as I said, retrospectively, I intellectually see it as we were building community. We brought people along the ride. When we were doing it, there was no intellectualization. There was no like, I think the strategy is build community because, it was not that. It was, we should tell people what we're doing. It was just as simple as, I think our friends want to know, and it's mostly our friends anyways. Let's just do it in public. Let's just tell people, oops, we don't like this milk and we like Strauss milk instead. Oops, this tea company wasn't great. We want to use this one according to the feedback, the focus groups that you all came to try in real time. I like this black tea more. Five Mountains tea, Jeff, and so we ended up going with Five Mountains, So that was kind of how we did it. Yeah.
How, I guess, like another audience, hi LinkedIn user. I don't know who you are, but hi, because it doesn't show you his name. So I wonder, like a piggyback question on that is like, how do you think about competition? Just because like there's like so many boba shop around the block, and obviously you guys really stand out due to like the quality or like the branding. I think the branding was like very sleek, and also the store design. I remember those stores out I went to. It's giving some sort of like Japanese vibe, but yeah.
I mean, at the time it was unique. I would say now there's a lot of cafes that look like us, but at the time, we were, if you travel overseas, what we were doing was not rocket science. Actually, my co-founder has more of this aesthetic. It's like Japanese Scandinavian. So minimalistic, very kind of clean lines. So what we showed, if we ever did posters and stuff, would stand out more because it was very kind of like neutral aesthetically. So I think that was the reason why we did it. And at the time, nobody did it. Now I do think there's a lot of cafes that kind of use our aesthetic. Blue Bottle maybe was starting to go. They were industrial, but then they were moving toward that too. So we were kind of seeing Blue Bottle, their newer stores were starting to do that. And maybe I think that was it. And then some of the favorite cafes that I saw in Asia were looking like that. So I would definitely say we kind of were inspired by global tastes. But in terms of like, positioning, I think positioning is such a big deal. Like we had to figure out how do we position ourselves in a way that, at the time, the first set of competition for boba was
Mhm.
like share tea, gong cha, wu si lan.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know, that was kind of the first generation. That was easier because that was like, here's our ingredients. We're transparent. None of these ones are. I think the new generation is like, you know, Chincha Sanchen, um, Haiti, Chagi, Mali tea. And I love those. I know them from Asia. So I've watched them a decade ago. So I knew, I was like, oh, Haiti's my favorite. Mango coconut boom. And I met the founder at a trade show a long time ago. I was like, oh, they're gonna hit it. And they've 1,000+ stores now. They have respect them a ton. Um, but we're like, okay, well, when you know there's a Haiti versus a Chagi versus a Mali, they're all gonna, I think, cannibalize each other. They're to me, they're roughly all the same. Haiti does fruit drinks a little bit more. So if you're in the know, you kind of know the
Mhm.
slight nuances, but really they're kind of the same. And the quality level is roughly the same. I would say like Chagi and in Asia, they're head to head. So you already know how they're mapped in Asia. So when they
Mhm.
come to the US, they're going to be mapped the same kind of same way because
Mhm.
their brand identity and their logistics are so similar.
Mhm.
So if you're kind of in the business sense, and I'm talking to LinkedIn crowd, it is about positioning. Al Rees has a famous book called Positioning. It's about
Mhm.
how do you kind of find that kind of white space? So, okay, well, all right, they're not going to do community like us because they're franchise. They're not going to have a soul because you don't know who's behind all that billions of dollars.
Mhm.
They're not going to do interviews like this. They're not going to do things that are agile so we can respond quicker because they're such a big company. You got to go through corporate if you want to do a collab. We can be more agile with our collaborations. So those are those, like I just named like 4 tactics and 4
Mhm.
strategies. Those are just really easy ways where we're like, oh, we're different. And that's
Mhm.
why, you know, when we talk to press, you know, they could pay for press. I
Mhm.
say on record, I've never paid for a PR agency ever. And I can
Mhm.
tell you all of them have PR agencies. That's how they buy, you know, the Eater articles, right? Like I know because I know some of those Eater editors. I love them as friends, but I'm like, you got to pay to play on Vox. You got to pay to play.
Mhm.
So, you know, nobody talks about that. Now they all do it. So there's nothing wrong with it. But hopefully people can tell the difference then. You're
Mhm.
like, you didn't get that magically because they loved a $1 billion company. You
Mhm.
know, they did it because you hyped. Yeah, maybe they throw an event, but like the favorable press, that's all
Mhm.
bought.
Mhm.
Nobody really talks about it that way. I know because I've been in the industry and I'm in media all the time. I know the
Mhm.
game. So we have to figure out, okay, how do we, okay, they're going to do this. So how do we position ourselves? So it's a lot of game theory strategy. And I get a lot of great advice. People like you and where we met, our friends, they're in the know. So they also can tell me, Andrew, I could see them outspend you.
Mhm.
So you're not going to outspend them. They're going to get a better location than you. I'm like, and I have landlords tell me this. And like, Andrew, they're willing to pay more. Haiti paid more for a location I wanted. And I was like, oh man, you know, we were going to get downtown Disney. Actually,
Mhm.
our friends ended up getting it, but we took ourselves out of the RFP. You know, our real estate agent was like, Andrew, do you want to lose money on this place? Like downtown Disney is great marketing,
Mhm.
but you're gonna probably lose. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose like -20% on a store. That's like 30% occupancy, which
Mhm.
usually 10%. I'm like, I don't know. Even if I'm a good negotiator and I get some little bit of favor, I can't. They're gonna outspend me. Somebody's gonna bite the bullet. I don't want to be the one being stuck on that bad lease. So to me, that's how I think about things. So again, you can see how transparent I am. I'm naming
Mhm.
numbers. You guys listening,
Mhm.
Andrew, I'm infamously transparent.
Okay, everybody's like commenting.
Oh, Benj, I know Ben.
Okay.
Benj was one of my top. Oh man, we're talking about mentorship. If we
Oh,
ever talk about
nice.
that, Benj came as a bobarista, and he ended up going to Cal, where I went.
Mhm.
He had no qualms. Oh, not qualms, but he had no dreams about business. He just loved tea, and he speaks fluent Mandarin, but he's a kid
Mhm.
from Vermont, non-Asian. So you can't see his picture, but Benj, he would teach me Chinese. He would teach me Mandarin. And, he might remember this. He calls me. I'm in Vegas for a trade show, and he's like,
Mhm.
I want to go to business school. And I was like, huh? Where'd that come from? And he's like, how do I get in? And I remember talking to him. on the floor in the lobby of the Venetian, like, all right, here's what you got to do. When I get back, let's coach you. Let's do this. And he's very transparent. And he got into Berkeley, go Bears, and he worked as a management consultant. And now he's doing all these amazing things. I always tell people, if there's you need a U.S. ambassador, U.S. China, you got Benj. We were in Changzhou in China, and we're on a T-Source. Somebody from across, we're talking about Changzhou, which is like, I don't know, 3 million people, Benj, and somebody recognizes him because he doesn't look like everybody else in China. Yells at him and goes, Mazadang, like his Chinese name. And we're like, somebody calling your name? And somebody runs from across this mall area and recognizes him. And it was just like this old friend or colleague. I don't remember who it was. And I was like, he was like, oh yeah, people know me in the city. People know me in this city.
This is like prior to TikTok era, I assume.
Yeah, before even TikTok era. And this is what Benj was, 2014, 15. So I only also say is I'm going to answer a question that you might ask, so I'll make it relevant for people, is like, the reason why I still do what I do is I love coaching our team because I have stories after stories. Ben just happens to be one of those. Very proud of him. But I can name doctors. I'm like, hey, you might save my life one day. I have team members that are now doctors. And if I was a corporate company, too corporate, I wouldn't have that kind of relationship and that kind of like investment with the team.
Yeah, I feel like they all sound like your children. So
yeah, so he is. That was a great moment indeed. Yeah, he'll tell you. That was so funny.
That. Okay, so I wonder when it comes to like the Gen Z era. So like, I mean, who is like, I guess like, who do you identify as like Boba Guys like main target? Obviously, I feel like
Gen Z.
Yeah. So like, how do you think about like just like attracting them, and then like is that like differently than back in time when you guys were first starting? Since like I feel like nowadays like everybody's like doing TikToks, and then you see like these like restaurant owners, everybody hop on to like say do like crazy skit and stuff.
Yeah. Gen Z, I would say it's not actually social media in a way. It's not the tactic. It's not the vehicle. It's not the medium. It's the vibe, the aura, the authenticity. They want authenticity. To them, I'm not young anymore. So I'm actually considered like what they would call an unk. So to them, they need to know, okay, I know I grew up with Boba Guys. I was with Boba Guys since I was 5 years old. And now they're going to be like, that's cool. But,
it's
that's
nostalgia.
Yeah, that's nostalgia.
Yeah.
And you're like, and I know the owner. The owner, I have, like, yes, he's big and corporate or whatever, but, he's still so real. He still does so much community stuff. I want them to say that about me. I hope, even through this interview, they're going to be like, yeah, I've known Andrew for 10 years. I worked for him. He's kind of the same. He's like very passionate. He mentors a lot of people. The people around him, they all do great things. There's something about him and his co-founder's ecosystem. So many people they worked with and worked for them. Like it's just all the musicians. We work with musicians that are now global superstars. Who knew? But there's something about the water that they drink that is different. I think that's what they're, I hope, saying now, and they're real. You hear him talk. This is how he is. He's just really open. Hopefully Benj, who worked for us, will tell you. He's like, Andrew was like this 10 years ago. I'm a little bit more savvy. I will say there's certain things I won't touch and talk about because, legally maybe I can't, or just it's not, the internet is not the right forum. And I will say that. And then I will say the Gen Z will be like, I respect that. I see it. Yeah. You've gone through a lot. Yeah. People are out to get you. I've had people tell me, more and more people tell me that. I'm like, hey, can I take this offline? And they're like, oh man, I totally get it. Now I get you now. I had so many people say that. And I'm like, I almost want to cry. I'm like, yeah, we, people didn't get us before, but now people get it. Because it's just, again, people see how toxic this world is. So
so
question. Yeah.
Also, this is like a good episode when people coming from like Facebook. I want to shout out to Antonio. But
Okay.
anyway,
Hey,
so
Anthony.
another question from Rudra, which is a question on my
Yeah.
chart as well. So what type of funding did Boba Guys use, and was it VC funder or some other type of funding? Also, will you guys
Super
like how
easy. None. Well, it was Angel.
Mhm,
Boba Guys. Um, you know, yeah, despite rumors, we were never VC backed. We had Angel Round. We had, I think the internet, I think, had this correct. The internet, 90%, 80% of it is wrong.
mhm,
Valuation, when did that? I'm like, even sometimes people say we were founded in 2012. I'm like, no, 2011. It's on the internet, but somehow AI doesn't pick it up or people say the wrong thing. But I would say, no VC backing. We had a really, really, really great set of angel investors,
mhm.
and
Wait, how do they exit from this if they ever exit, or like do you pay
there
them
isn't
back?
actually. That's a whole separate
Oh,
thing.
what? Oh my god.
Ask them. Ask some of them. They're like, I love you, but is there any chance of me getting during the economic this recession? I have been asked this for the first
Mhm,
time ever because I get it. Money's hard.
mhm,
I got to figure that out. Um,
mhm.
yeah,
Listeners, if you're
that's it.
listening, if you're an accountant or lawyer listening, please hit us up. But keep going. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's come up, like maybe, I mean, there's a lot of options. Like, we've entertained all different options. I mean, we've definitely know that it's a concern. If you take other people's money, and many times people do have to, because I
Mhm,
didn't grow up with money. Both with my co-founder and I, I tell people my story. My dad was a refugee. My mom was like, came here like, during her teenage years. Her dad passed away because my grandpa was in the Air Force for Taiwan. So it wasn't like you got a lot of money there. Like it was just really, really. That's my sister. She doesn't know she's now on live.
mhm.
100,000 people are like, oh, that's my sister. So I think the I'll put it this way: it's case by case on how you want to deal with money. But long story short is yes, if you take investment for anybody who's interested in doing that, you do have to figure out what an exit is. You have to figure out how you make their bet pay off. That's the transaction there.
Mm.
I mean,
Uh,
but they're betting on you because they love you and they believe in you. So it's not like, oh, well,
mhm,
like they hate you. And like, they're not going to give you money if they hate you. But yes, it's money that they could be putting to a new car. It could be to invest in another company. Then
mhm,
why you? So you have to kind of make good. That's kind of also why I'm still doing what I'm doing. No investor of mine will be like, I slack off.
mhm,
To this day, they will say Andrew might be the hardest working founder I know. I would say that's true. I'm in stores 40, 50 hours a week. And then I do
mhm,
running the company. So I work probably about 90 hours a week to this day.
mhm.
Not great for your personal life, which I'm not going to get into on LinkedIn, but that's a whole separate issue.
How do you kind of like so if you're spending like 50 hour at the store, do you just like micromanage the store or like just like vibe checking or how do you spend the time on like the 24 stores?
Uh-huh.
Also, like I guess like the other question I had wanted to make sure that we cover it in time. It's like everyone who's listening is probably building an AI tool for a restaurant or something. So
Yeah.
like what kind of like AI or tech tool that you guys use maybe from like loyalty program or
Yeah.
how do you improve efficiency, that kind of stuff.
Great question. So I'll answer that one. That one's easier. Like AI, our loyalty program has
Mhm,
really good technology between my co-founder and Hang and Solana.
mhm,
Solana is one of our angel investors. People don't know that,
mhm.
but Solana is actually
The
Solana
crypto.
Foundation invested in Boba Guys. So
Do
built.
they get free boba? Just want to know.
We've done a lot of free boba for them. Yeah, we've done events with them, and we didn't. But despite what people think, people don't know. Like we're not exchanging crypto and doing
Boba.
NFT NFTs. That's not what we do. But it is on the chain, and later on, we have a lot of other use cases for like loyalty programs and everything.
Mhm,
So our loyalty program has that. I would say scheduling, more and more auditing and software. That is going to be AI driven. I have seen the products. I've been pitched almost every day. I take one every week. I do 1 or 2 calls about, okay, well, maybe I'm not interested now, but how do you schedule differently in the future? You can do predictive scheduling. Okay. That's another one. So that to me, I would say is coming in our, no matter what. And then in food and beverage, you know, I think your question was like how to start and kind of like the nuts and bolts. It's like, first of all, not a great time in most food and beverage. People don't have money. We don't even have money. You know, people think like we're made out of money. No, you know who has all the money? Lawyers and insurers. I will point blank say they are raking it in. Mm-hmm. The public companies, you can see they are raking it in. The white collar sector is raking it in. I have a whole separate thing. That's why the people, the community, and the public is mad. Rightly so. Rightly so, because I could tell you, I'll tell you one. My insurance, we had almost no claims all of last year. No claims. No, you know, nobody, no slip and falls. That's what we call it. Like none of that. Thank God. Our team is so amazing. My insurance went up $80,000. My umbrella insurance. That's the, I think from $120,000 to $200,000. When my agent told me why, he didn't even have an explanation. And he actually just felt sorry. And I said, are you saying this to everybody else this year? And he's like, yes. But you guys have record profits. I know your company. And I'm like, he was like, well, I want to leave your insurance. Well, everybody's increasing prices. You know, it's harder to do business in California. You're in fire zones. But we had no fires. It doesn't matter. The risk of it. Mm-hmm. Another podcast. But, you know, if we were to clip this right here, you wonder why the world is angry and on fire, literally on fire, but also just like, it's because there is a class and there's a group of people that is raking it in. And I have no qualms about talking about them. I know a lot of them. And they don't like me talking about it. And this is LinkedIn. You're watching from your corner office. Some of you guys, I've been in your offices. I love you as people. But don't be surprised when there's more of an uprising, because it's not the restaurateurs that are raking it in. I can tell you, read every article. Look at all the places that are closing. Our sector is not raking it in. It is a certain sector. So all of that to say is, I wouldn't really start a food company unless you really want to like have free food, maybe, or you really love the chef. It's not a making money proposition. In today's age, with the Fed rate still the certain kind of seal, like there's so many other ways to make money. Mm-hmm. Food is not a way you make money. Mm-hmm. Food and retail, no. Maybe you might have a hot restaurant. You might get lucky. But if you average it all out, it's really tough. Now, if you really still want to do it, you got to just slide into my DMs. Like I can help you out, but like ultimately it depends on the place, the location, the people. Mm-hmm. That's so case by case that it's hard to do as a group chat.
Oh, I love that, but that's so real. Obviously,
I told you, unfiltered, right?
Yeah. You're the best. Okay, we'll wrap with like a 1-minute fire round. I want to be mindful of your time. What's your favorite book?
Oh man. 2. How to Win Friends, Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and then maybe Originals by Adam Grant.
OG. Yeah. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Oh my gosh, my three idols. Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's like my idol. I say this so many times. In my book, I had a dedication to him because of Hamilton and all the other things he's done. Barack Obama, my political idol. He's passed away, but Norman Mineta, I really looked up to him. I've met him many times. And then maybe a couple of my mentors. Dan Lin, shouts to him. He now runs Netflix, but he's been a huge instrumental figure in my life. And then Vicky Tsai from Tatcha. There's nobody I cried to as a percentage. Tatcha?
I'm such a big fan. I use Tatcha every day. Expensive, but Can you sponsor this show, please?
So much. Well, shouts to her. Maybe we can clip this and I'll tag her.
Yes.
Man, the amount of times I've got on a phone call with her and cried.
Wait, how do you know her? I'm crying. Oh my
I'm
god.
like,
Second degree
I'm like
connection.
machine. But you said how you know what it was? I think her daughter is a big fan. And so
nice.
and then I think I did a conference in which she was at, and then I don't know if you people know this, but she's ex Starbucks. So she worked for Howard Schultz himself. So I kind of always knew this because I was before she has a How I Built This podcast episode, which goes into it, but like she has a whole background that people don't really know. Amazing story. Both of them have amazing stories. And a lot of my DNA, I wish, because I'm a little bit more kind of outspoken compared to them, but they kind of help me kind of rein it in and kind of help me become like a CEO where I'm like laser focused. So in my CEO side, I'm like, well, that's how law is. That's that they're going to settle. Like, that's just how, that kind of mentality. I don't have any personal offense. It's nearly impossible to offend me now. I'm entrepreneurs also supposedly genetically, we have less of a fear gene because we are a lot of times ADHD. So it takes a lot more to scare us. We need more dopamine to hit. So I actually don't also get the fear gene. So, like intimidation doesn't really work. So anyways, all of those things, I felt like Dan and Vicky really help level me up as a leader. So sorry, that was a long one, but I like colorful answers.
I love that. I think we also like to wait, that's a dinner question or that's an impact question?
That's a dinner question, but I guess it's impact now because they also one of the best conversationalists I've ever met.
Yeah, the second question is the third question is supposed to be like, who made the biggest impact in your
those
career?
Two. Yeah, there you go.
You kind of already
and Wen Zhao from Philip Lim. And Wen Zhao, one of our angel investors, Wen Zhao, Philip Lim. She's the only maybe other person who's seen me cry as much. Like, I can't do this anymore. I went to her house in New York City. She started a company called Philip Lim. And Wen will tell
that's
you.
That's another huge. Oh, how do you know these like celebrity brands?
I don't know. I'm very lucky. I'll give real tangible advice. Be coachable. Every one of those three will tell you, Andrew, despite his opinions, and he's like very confident as a person, he's vulnerable, he's very real, and he's very coachable. So like if I'm meeting them, I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like typing my notes. I'm like, okay, yeah, we should do that. Oh, that's a good strategy, PR strategy. Oh, okay. I don't have a PR agency. So Wen Zhao was really good at that. She was like, don't say anything, And he's like, you can't everything's gonna look defensive. He's like, but that's not the truth. Doesn't matter. I was like, oh, is that real? Now I'm like, wow, that's really good advice. And then before it was different, So yeah, very, very I'm so lucky.
Where can we find you outside work?
You can find me on Instagram, and Instagram primarily. I'm on TikTok, but really Instagram. I post one way. I don't really have time because I get a lot of DMs. But I generally check my messages. I will respond when I can. I do more and more. I am thinking about my next phase. So I am kind of speaking at panels more. So that's an easy, I just did one on Saturday. So yeah, pretty easy. I'm pretty accessible.
Wait, do you have a book?
Oh yeah. We have a bestseller by Penguin Random House, Clarkson Potter. It's called The Boba Book. And
the Boba Book. Wait, yeah.
Any Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, I think I hear from my editor that we might be running out of copies, meaning we have to decide if we do another run of it in the book business. So
yeah, I'm going to plug it right here. I don't know if people can see this.
It's done pretty well.
Done.
I mean, that's really good.
Oh my God. It's only on Facebook and YouTube, but I'll post it on LinkedIn.
Oh, the Boba. Oh yeah.
The Boba Book. I share the link, but I think the centralized system only allow it to be on certain platforms. Yeah, I'm streaming on the 6 of my platforms, just saying. So yeah.
I didn't even know that you could. This is, first of all, I don't think I've ever streamed on LinkedIn, which is awesome.
Yeah. You know what? I low-key onboarded maybe like 500 people onto a StreamYard this year solely.
You're an influencer too, so you're
No.
influencing me right now. If I ever were to like recommend something, I'd be like, oh, we should do StreamYard.
Yes. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming to the show today. It was such a fun conversation. Though I wanted to chat with you for like 5 more hours, but
We'll do
I
this
won't
offline.
hold you.
We'll grab Boba. Yeah.
Yes, we'll do that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you for all the great questions as well.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for asking, and thanks again, Grace. You made me feel so comfortable.
You too. You're amazing guest.
Thanks. Well, hope some people learn some things,
For
and
sure.
either were encouraged or discouraged from being food entrepreneurs.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.